Hi, my name's Sam and today we're talking about telling better stories. If you want to grow an audience on YouTube, if you want to just be a more interesting person, you've got to work on telling better stories. And the great news is it's a skill that can be learned and you can improve on just like anything else. So without further ado, let's get into it right after the intro. First of all, the good news is that you get better at telling stories over time with practice. It's not this thing you're either born being able to do or not. It's just a skill like any other thing that you can grow and get better at. So what makes a good story? First of all, a good story is simple, meaning it's not this complex, crazy story that you're telling. It's simple. If you're in a format like YouTube, you've got a couple minutes to share something with your audience without them losing interest. People want to get to the point, people want to hear what you're talking about, understand you, and move on with their day. Another important component of telling good stories is that there has to be a conflict or a struggle. A struggle is so important because it helps the audience relate with the person that's speaking. There's a big part of emotions that are grounded in a struggle. And if you don't have a struggle, that's okay, but the best stories have a struggle. Another important part of telling good stories is that a good story has to hold your attention. It has to draw in your audience and make them feel like they're a part of your story. The best creators on YouTube really bring you in and establish a relationship with you and make you feel like you're best friends, but they've never met you. They're just really great at providing a lot of value, a lot of emotion, a lot of themselves. Another important bit of telling great stories is having an emotional aspect to the story. So whether it's sad or happy or exciting, whatever it is, as long as it's grounded in emotion, you're going to be a lot better of a storyteller. Finally, the last bit of making a great story is having it be memorable or sticky. And that's a great marketing buzzword that's thrown around a lot these days. But be memorable. Don't just tell a story that's forgettable, that has no context, no emotion to it. If it's memorable, people will tell others about it, or people will be able to recall it in the future, and that's awesome when you can tell someone something and months down the road they can still recall it. So that's kind of a little bit about the traits that make a good story, but now let's talk about how to get better at telling stories. The first thing to realize is that telling stories is not this thing that you're inherently good or bad at. It's a learned skill that you can get better at over time. If you look at a lot of creators' channels and go to their first video, they're just awful, or they're so far different from the kind of content they produce now. So keep that in mind, especially if you're trying to grow an audience, grow a YouTube channel. It takes time to get better at telling stories, and it's just something that you naturally get better at the more you do it, the more you sit in front of a camera, etc. The main thing you got to do to get good at telling stories is learn the delivery. So it's not just making sure that you cover all the different parts of a story, it's making sure you tell them in the right order and with the right level of emotion or context or whatever it is. If you've ever heard a bad joke, it's probably because the delivery was executed poorly. And if you've ever heard a fantastic joke, it's probably because the delivery was excellent, right on point. Now it's important to implement the arc, the story arc. Every great story kind of has a similar arc to it. It starts with a little bit of background, if necessary, how the story started, and then you get into the rising action, and then the climax, and then the falling action, and then what's called the denouement, or the moral of the story. Sadly, the most important part of getting better at telling stories is to practice. There's not one single thing you can do to be better. For example, me, I'm trying to work on my saying less ums and so's and those filler words, but the only way to get better at that is to just keep doing it, to keep paying attention to the things I'm doing wrong, look back on my work and figure out how to improve, but practice, practice, practice. That's the best way to get better at telling stories. Unfortunately, there's no secret formula, there's no recipe to success, it just takes practice. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you aren't already, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.